Hey folks, before we start today's video, I just want to tell you about a new course that we've launched on the Freedom Farmers platform. It's called Food Preservation 101 with Nicole Connect. She's a really great friend of mine, and we've put this course together to give you the nuts and bolts and the real 80-20 of food preservation. We look at multiple types of techniques: canning, freezing, dry storage. We look at different types of cold storage. We really cover all the bases. And the idea with this course is to give you the right information right out of the gate. Yeah, you can go on YouTube and look for this kind of information, but you'll spend hours going down a rabbit hole and watching a lot of people who make mistakes, because there's not a lot of filter with making YouTube videos these days. So anybody puts out anything. And so we've taken the best content on this subject that we know of. Nicole Connect has over 15 years of food preservation and homesteading. She's a mom, she's an incredible cook and chef. So if you want to check this out, there'll be a link somewhere in this video to take you to some more information about the course. Check it out. Welcome to your weekly update with me up here in the mountains on the homestead. And this is actually sort of a bi-weekly update because we didn't have one last week. We have had crazy weather, though summer's here and we're all really excited. It's been a beautiful 24 degrees Celsius today. Been working outside all day in the sunshine. It's been fantastic. And yeah, we've had some really shoddy weather up until this point, but I feel like I felt like a broken record for many of those daily vlogs or the weekly updates, but now it's all good. So we're going to cover a lot of stuff in this video. A lot has happened since you guys would have seen me last time. So before we start this one, let me just say real quick, I daily vlog at FromTheField.tv. If you ever want to see any of the things that I do in detail here, it's all up there. I post every single day, 5 days a week, up at FromTheField.tv. I miss the odd one here and there, but for the most part, during the main season, the three warmer seasons, I'm vlogging every day. So you can head over to FromTheField.tv to check that out. All right, so let's go for it. So right now I'm standing in another drainage project, and I've done this many times on the property. I'm actually getting really good at it, I think. And I've got a technique that I really like. If you want to see that, head over to the vlogs, or we might have another video coming out on YouTube soon enough where I talk about how I do these drainages in detail. But in a nutshell here, what I've had to do is every time I build a terrace on this property, I have to create a ring around it that drains, so that in an extreme rainy weather event or in the spring snowmelt, I don't get a massive amount of water that floods in the terrace and could potentially compromise it. My plan this week was to get into this terrace, and I did. And as soon as I started bringing loads of material down this access, I kept going deeper and deeper with the skid steer. And so that was telling me that I'm in a mud bog and there's water coming from somewhere. So I had to do some digging to find out where it was. And lo and behold, I found water shedding down the hill still right now. It's probably because it's been raining for the last 3 months, really. So, you know, it's still soaked in the ground and it's making its way downhill. And so I have to divert that. So that's what we've done here. There's actually a lot going on at the homestead. So let's go up to past the solar greenhouse and check that out. All right, before we go and look at the greenhouse, I just wanted to show you these other terraces that I built over the last weekend. So these are two small terraces in front of our cabin. And this area was just kind of nebulous for a while. I had piles of material here from when I was building this road out. It was kind of a nothing area. And so I've built 8 garden beds in here. I've got 4 that are 18 feet long. And then I've got, no, these are 23 feet long. And then I've got another 4 which vary from size from 33 down to 26. But they're all here. So we've got 8 beds here. And I've done the same thing with the drainage here as I did everywhere else, as I do, because I seem to have to do it everywhere. So this road, because it's hard packed, it really sheds a lot of water. And I've got it sloped down a little bit. On the high side of this road, there's also a French drain that takes water as it sheds off that greenhouse and takes it underneath the road. There's a drainage ditch with a big O pipe, just as I've shown you before, coming across. And then there's a mini culvert that goes underneath here, going to this spillway here. So this side also collects everything off the road. There's Big O here. And then there's a pipe that goes underneath all of this that takes it all down to the main garden that we started at, the main terrace down below. Another thing I also did in here was I built a sandbox for my kids. And I also built this, I mentioned this earlier, but I built this grease trap because we're off grid up here. And, you know, you don't just dump stuff down the toilet or the sink and hope it gets dealt with. You got to deal with it. So this is a grease trap I built, really DIY. Works great. It's basically a tote. Water comes in and there's a high side exit and then there's a low side exit. On the low side, there's a pipe that goes down. So all the grease and sediment sits up top and collects. If you ever worked in a restaurant, you know exactly how these work. And essentially clean water is what goes down below. And then all I got to do is come in here every now and then and clean this out. This is far from finished, but I've got it insulated all around before I buried it in sand. And this lid is just a temporary one because what I'm going to do is insulate this lid and then I'll build another box around it that'll also be insulated because my earth is actually going to get a little bit higher here. So that way this won't have to be, this will not freeze in the winter. So yeah, now that I got these garden terraces, these are all shaped. Essentially what's next here is I'll bring in some rock material so that I can berm this stuff up good. And then I'll make this into a path. I'll landscape this down eventually. But this site here in particular is ready for soil. So what's going to happen next week is I'm going to finish shaping that next terrace now that I got the drainage done for it. I got another small terrace right up here where that orange bucket is. And we're not going to have to do a drainage for that one because it's up high. I'm not worried about it. It's dry. But we're going to finish those two terraces out, and then Michael and I are going to go at it wholesale with both machines running the Mini X and the skid steer, and we're going to be sifting soil and then spreading that soil and shaping out all these beds. So next week should be a fairly big one is seeing the gardens on the farm. So we're finally doing the siding upgrades on the garage greenhouse. And since I decided to just take a break from the construction of the house, I wanted to tie up the loose ends up here, and there's so many of them. But one of the ones that was really bothering me, that was really needed to finish, was finish this building to completion. So there's a number of features here. Last time you were here, many times you've been here, you would have seen the Tyvek that was on the outside, and I just didn't want to go through another winter with Tyvek because you'd have to re-Tyvek it. So what we've done is we've done a layer, a 1.5 inch layer of rigid insulation. Once this is all said and done, when we get our last siding on and everything, we're going to have an R36 on this wall, which is amazing. You know, a lot of people will, if you try to get to an R40, you might do a double stud wall, which is a lot of extra framing. So we just did standard 2x6 framing on this, and then did the layer of outsulation, we'll call it, on the outside, which gives us, when you combine it with the siding, a total of R36. So we've got it's called an ICO product. It's a glass-based rigid insulation, and it goes on really easy. You get your strapping, make sure it's going into all the studs and all that. But we've got a layer of this insulation now, and then we've got our corners and our strapping for our siding. And what's going to happen on this building is a combination of two things. There's going to be a stainless steel, corrugated stainless steel product. This corrugated stainless steel is on this wall in particular. It's going to be underneath this overhanging roof, which is a feature I'll talk about in a second. And this will all be stainless steel to this corner. There'll be a transition corner here, and then it'll be hardy plank all on the front. And I'm not going to bother going around the other side and explaining all of it because you'll see it eventually, but just to give you an idea of what's going on. So this building is going to be a combination of corrugated steel and hardy plank. What we decided to do is create this roof overhang, and the main purpose of it, well, there's two purposes of it. One is to keep water off the door, as you would in most buildings. But the other is to create a large tool wall for all of my garden tools. And there's three walls to it. So in here, there's going to be a board or two boards, depending on how I want to hang things, I can hang tools in. So rakes, stirrup hose, some construction tools, landscaping tools, all kinds of outdoor tools, line trimmers. I use a lot of different outdoor tools in the garden. And so all of these will be here. There'll probably be some smaller hand tools mounted up on this particular wall because this wall is close to that greenhouse and some of these gardens. So we might have some trowels and things like that hanging here as well. And then coming up here, there'll be a staircase here eventually, landscaped in. And we have this other wall feature as well. So there's going to be more tool shelves here, racks here as well. So same roofing idea, also covers the door inside of the garage. And this will all be utility. And what I really like about this is it breaks up this huge massive wall that we have on this greenhouse that was kind of just bothering me sometimes because it was just so big. It's like, should we do a mural on this or something? It's just crazy. So anyways, more utility stuff there. And what will happen actually here in particular is there's a 2-foot skirting with the steel. So it'll actually join up with here because this whole wall is going to be steel. Then here, it'll be steel from here to below, and then this will be hardy plank all above, and we'll be painting it. I'm not exactly sure which color yet. So that's pretty much how this building is going to go, and then it's going to stay this 2-foot skirting with the corrugated steel all the way around, and it'll wrap around the other side and kind of do the same thing and go straight across. And we'll save that for another video at another time because that's still a ways away. We got a lot of work to do with this. So that's what's happening on the greenhouse. Let's go check out the special high tunnel and see what's going on here. So in the special high tunnel here, we've talked about this greenhouse a lot in a number of videos, and it's not quite finished. One feature to show outside, actually, just back up real quick, is we've begun to insulate the foundation. So we've got a 3-inch rigid earth-based insulation that can be buried. And then we've got our dimple board on top of that because this is going to take steel and it's going to be buried. And so the idea, or what's going to happen here, is this is actually going to be corrugated steel as well. There'll be a flashing that's on top of this, a drip flashing, and then this will all be corrugated steel all the way around. And then this greenhouse is we're still chipping away. There's a long ways to go still with it. We've got to trim out these doors and just kind of finalize everything. But the exciting thing is we've begun the climate battery in here. So at least the features of the climate battery. So I've talked about this greenhouse in many videos. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that we're standing on a air-based climate battery as well as a thermal PEX, radiant floor climate battery. So it's a combination of two things. It was an experiment I wanted to try. The main reason is because this climate battery is way shallower than in the passive solar greenhouse. That one is a 6-foot deep climate battery bermed into rock. It's incredible. It's insulated the same way, but it's thick and it's got bigger pipes, more pipes, 2 layers of pipes. It's a lot more skookum than this one. But so this one's a shallow climate battery, and the idea with it is that I'll be able to get enough thermal mass held into it for days at a time, or perhaps a week, so that on the shoulder season or in the winter, if it's sunny, I can turn it on and dump that heat in the ground and it'll release at night. Whereas that greenhouse, that heat can release over months. And so they have slightly different effects. And this is why I also put a radiant floor in here, so that if I want to just turn up the dial and turn up the heat in the winter and I'm not getting enough charge from the climate battery, I can raise the ambient temperature up here really quickly by just turning on the thermal element of it, which is connected to a wood boiler. So coming over here, if you look up, we now have the main air duct that's going to send the warm air as it rises in the greenhouse into the climate battery below. So this is going to be the fan that takes all the air down. So we haven't connected this all together, but this piping will just follow the bow essentially and then connect up above. And then as heat rises in here, it gets sucked down underground and gets distributed amongst the pipes, and then it comes out kitty corner on the other side. Another thing we're adding right now is the blower, which is right here, has yet to be mounted, but this is our blower to get us the air gap between our poly on this greenhouse. So There's no need to run this right now. We're in the summertime, same with the climate battery, but we're getting them done so that by the time winter rolls around, we're absolutely ready to take on another cold winter and grow crops all winter long. So that's essentially where we're at for our weekly update, folks. Again, if you want to see these videos from me regularly, head over to fromthefield.tv, and I'm posting daily up there. All right, if you like this video, hit the subscribe, hit the like. We'll see you in the next one.